Nightwork, a Dave Brandstetter mystery. Author Joseph Hansen. Publisher Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 10. Dave swung the van in at the Myers driveway. Those two narrow strips of cracked cement leading past the side of the house to the garage, whose overhead door gaped, slumping in the middle. Dave slid the van into the garage and stopped it. "Come on," he said. "On the double." He jumped down out of the van, and so did Cecil. Outside, Dave reached and caught a frayed rope end and dragged the garage door down. "If nobody's watching it, we'll be safe for a few minutes." Cecil glanced around. "I don't like the odds." "We're not staying." Dave crossed grass so dry it crackled underfoot. At the back door, he rapped the frame of the screen with his knuckles. No one stirred inside the house. He peered, holding hands at his eyes as blinkers. The sun was far to the west and low, but it still glared against the smoggy sky. He could make out nothing indoors. Cecil climbed on a bricked square meant for a planter, in which nothing grew out but a few dry weeds. He peered through a window. "Looks like nobody's home," he said. "That's all right. I didn't come to talk to anyone." Dave slipped a thin steel pick from his wallet and worked the screen door lock. The lock of the wooden door with its glass pane was even easier. That required only the insertion of a credit card between lock and frame. When the door opened, the children's artwork fastened to the refrigerator fluttered. Empty beer cans stood on the kitchen table. A full ashtray, dirty dishes were piled in the sink. The smell this time was of peanut butter. Dave left the kitchen for the hall. The door to the children's room was open. Inside, a portable radio whispered rock music. Nothing in Angela Myers' bedroom was different from before, except that possibly more underclothes were strewn around. Dave went straight to the closet, straight to the drawer with the shipping manifest. He knelt, pulled it open, and released breath. He hadn't even known he was holding. He'd feared Salazar might have beaten him to it. Or the Duchess. This time, he took them all. Half the stack he handed up to Cecil. "Stash those on you, out of sight," he said. The other half he folded and pushed into the inner pocket of his jacket. He closed the drawer and rose. "Let's go." They were rolling backward out the narrow driveway when someone shouted. Dave braked the van, weighed down by bulging white plastic supermarket sacks. Jean Malloy halted on the front sidewalk. The children were with him. Each of them carried a sack. Malloy set his down and jogged to the van. "I want to talk to you," he said. "I want to show you something. Better not leave this out where the jigs can see it." He meant the van. In the sun glare, he hadn't noticed Cecil. Or maybe he had and didn't care. "Put it in the garage and close the door," he said. "I'll let you in the back way." He let them in the back way, frowning. "I know damn well I lock these doors." "This is my associate, Cecil Harris," Dave said. "Jean Malloy." Malloy shook Cecil's hand, but his Irish eyes were not smiling. Cecil muttered something polite. Dave said, "Did you ever hear your brother-in-law mention someone called the Duchess?" Brian, the Myers boy with the white sheepdog hair, took cans out of the slithery white sacks that lay bulging on the kitchen chairs. He climbed a short aluminum ladder to stow the cans on cupboard shelves. He set boxes, cereal crackers, tea bags on the shelves. Stretching, he put plastic-wrapped chicken legs and hamburger into the freezer. A deep tin drawer rattled when he opened it to drop in lettuce, tomatoes, carrots. "I told you," Malloy said. "I wasn't around here that much." "Duchess? What kind of sense does that make?" "A nickname. Someone he worked for, possibly the one he was working for nights." Cecil helped the child by arranging boxes of frozen vegetables along a freezer door shelf. He said, "Possibly the one who killed him?" Malloy glared at him. "Watch your mouth." Cecil touched the boy's shoulder. "I'm sorry." "It's not your fault," the boy said. He looked at Malloy. "I did my half. It's Ruth Ann's turn." Go get her," Malloy said, and to Dave, "It wasn't any Duchess. I know who it was. I've got proof." "Come on, I'll show you." He left the kitchen for the living room, up the hall. The rock music was loud now, and louder still were the voices of Brian and Ruth Ann, quarreling. Malloy turned back, pushed past Dave and Cecil, went to the door of the children's bedroom, and put his head inside. "Knock it off, right now, Ruth Ann. God damn it." He disappeared into the room. The music broke off. "Get out to the kitchen and put the rest of those groceries away. And when you finish with that, wash the dishes by yourself." "See, stupid," Brian's voice said. "How stupid you," Ruth Ann's voice said. She came out of the room with Malloy behind her, his hands on her shoulders. When he had deposited her in the kitchen, he came into the living room, where Dave and Cecil stood waiting. "Look at these," he said, and dug under the cushions of the sofa and brought out crumpled sheets of paper. He pushed them at Dave, who took them, frowned, reached for his reading glasses, turned the pages around, studied them. Cecil peered over his shoulder. Malloy lit a cigarette and smiled grimly. "You know what those are?" "This is Kilgore's school stationery," Dave said. "Is this Brian's work? Ruth Ann's? They look like diagrams." "I don't think any kids drew those," Cecil said. "I'm ashamed to say it," Malloy said, "but Bruce Kilgore has been sleeping with my sister." "So I've heard," Dave said. "What do you think his reason was?" A crash sounded from the kitchen. Malloy grimaced and left the room. Ruth Ann wailed. Malloy shouted. Dave frowned at the copies of Scientific American on the coffee table. He picked up the top one and leafed through it. Silence reigned in the kitchen. Malloy returned with cans of beer. He handed one to Dave, one to Cecil, and popped the opener tab on one for himself. "Maybe you think it was love," he said. "Possibly loneliness," Dave said. He held up the magazine. "I'd like to borrow this, if I may." Malloy shrugged. "Be my guest. I can't read the goddamn things." "No, there's lots of lonely housewives. Why, Angie, she's sure as hell no Playboy centerfold." "What are you trying to say?" Dave rattled the papers. "What have these got to do with it?" "Look," Malloy sat on the couch and balanced his beer can on the arm. A large, thick book lay on the coffee table with the magazines. Malloy sat forward, spread the book open, leafed over glossy pages, some of them smeared in thumbprint. It was a truck repair manual. When Malloy found the page he wanted, he slapped it and reached up for the Kilgore school papers. Dave handed them to him. Malloy swiveled the book so it faced Dave and laid the pages beside it. "Check this out." Dave bent above the book, hands on knees, the glasses slipping down his nose. The diagram in the book covered 2 pages. It detailed the air brake system of an 18-wheel truck and trailer. The Kilgore school pages broke the diagram into 3 parts, but each part had plainly been copied from this book or another book of the same sort. Dave pushed the glasses up his nose and straightened. He said, "You think Bruce Kilgore drew these?" "I found them in the dumpster back of the school. I knew what they were right away. When Paul did let me live here, he made me help him to maintenance on the truck. I don't think Kilgore ever did maintenance on a truck. He had to copy the diagram because he doesn't know it by heart the way any trucker would." Cecil tilted his head. "You think Kilgore wanted to kill your brother-in-law by rigging the brakes on his truck? But that wasn't how it happened." "It was just his first idea," Malloy said. "I don't know why he changed his mind, but he could make a bomb easy. He's a trained engineer." "What would be the point?" Dave took off the glasses, folded them, pushed them away. "To marry your sister, and use the insurance money to bail out of school?" Malloy frowned. "You've been thinking that too?" "What does Salazar think?" Dave said. Malloy laid the pages in the big book and shut it with a thud. Mouth a tight line, he twisted out his cigarette in the fluted pink china ashtray. "He hasn't got time to see me." Malloy slumped back on the couch, gulped beer. "That's why I'm glad you showed up today. He's your buddy. If you tell him about Kilgore, maybe he'll tear himself away from that moron street gang shootout for 5 minutes." "Where was that? When?" "Yesterday, sundown." Malloy fingered another cigarette from the pocket of his sweaty t-shirt, faded red with stud power, littered across the chest. "Silencio Ruiz and his hot tamales." Malloy scratched a paper match and lit the cigarette. "Raided a barbecue at the Nig. He darted a glance at Cecil and changed his word. At the Black Church on Guava Street, Mount Olivet. Free fruit. So guess what? The Ed showed up to eat it, didn't they? You should have seen it. He waved his beer can at the gray-faced portable television by the couch. Blood and barbecue sauce all over the place. Oh, we'd better go. Dave set his beer can on the table. It was still full. Cecil set his beside it and followed Dave, who took long strides toward the kitchen. Malloy jumped up. You tell Salazar for me, okay? About Kilgore. All he can think about now is Ruiz. Dave stopped in the doorway from hall to kitchen. Did they catch him? Is he locked up? It happened too fast. I came through those walnut trees screaming and shooting, and in a minute, 90 seconds, it was all over. They were gone. They rounded up most of them later, but not Silencio. He got away. Ruth Ann stood on the aluminum ladder stool and fitted a roll of paper towels on a rack beside the window over the kitchen sink. The dishes in the sink floated in sudsy water. So did the plastic wrapper from the paper towels. Dave and Cecil went to the outside kitchen door. Goodbye, Ruth Ann said. Wait a second, Malloy said. He held the edge of the wooden door. Did Mr. Smithers contact you? I've been out of town, Dave said. Who is Smithers? Ah, shit, Malloy said. You don't know him? He was here last night, supper time. I said it was about Paul's insurance. Wanted to talk to Angie. Asked the same questions you did. I told him you'd already been here. He said it was a communications mix-up. And apologized. And left. Tall guy, thin, bald. Malloy studied Dave. Must be big bucks and checking insurance claims. He drove a Mercedes. Did it leave here on its wheels? Cecil said. The games were busy at the church, Malloy said. Dave said, Have you got Smithers' card? He didn't give me one. I showed him yours. I think he put it in his pocket. What's that about? Dave tugged at the doorknob. Malloy let the door go. Dave swung it open, pushed the screen door, stepped out and down. I'll tell you when I have a chance to look into it. It's probably as he says. Dave watched Cecil loop to the garage and raise the warped door. Just a mix-up. I was hired from outside. He's probably from inside. Dave lifted a hand, started to turn away. Maybe... Malloy stood holding the screen door open, beer can in his hands. But there's one funny thing. Angie told me Smithers went to the restaurant. Cappuccino's, right? Where she works. He ordered dinner, but he didn't eat it. All he did was ask her questions. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.